Tonight, we're going to talk about a beginner's guide to 23andMe DNA testing. And 23andMe is just one of the companies that offers an autosomal DNA test. So autosomal DNA is inherited 50% from your mother and 50% from your father, and anyone, male or female, can take this test. And it will tell you about both your mother's side and your father's side. This testing is offered by the big four testing companies, which include Ancestry DNA, Family Tree DNA's Family Finder test, MyHeritage DNA, and 23andMe, and then a few other smaller companies. What makes 23andMe a little distinctive from the other big three is that they are a health testing company, and that's always been their primary focus. And if you see commercials for them on TV or on the internet, it's usually emphasizing, oh, take our DNA test and find out about your health history or your health, your predispositions to different diseases and those types of things. So those are the people that they market towards. That being said, genealogy would be a secondary focus of the company. It is still a focus, but it's a secondary focus. So a lot of people will say that site is not really easy for genealogists to use, and it's not easy to find out information about your DNA matches. There's not trees for your matches. There's not ancestral surnames usually. And so it's just a little harder to use, but it's not a site that you want to overlook, especially if you are looking for a mystery ancestor and you're using DNA to do so. Let's say you're adopted or you had an adoption in the family, or even a further back mystery. Sometimes 23andMe is going to be the company that has the matches that you need to solve your mystery. It is the second largest of the companies. So there's about 12 million, 13 million people in their database that have taken a DNA test. Now, 23andMe offers 3 different testing options at this point in time. My understanding is that they're going to be offering a 4th option soon, but they're not offering it yet. So right now, the 3 options are the test that's called Ancestry plus Traits. This is their basic autosomal DNA test. And then the traits part is a predisposition to 30 traits. And I'm going to show you a slide about the traits later on in the program. So this is a one-time fee to buy this test. The next level of testing is Ancestry plus Health. And this is takes the basic test and adds to it 65 personalized reports about your health, your wellness, and your carrier status for some diseases, not all, some. And that's also a one-time fee. The people that take the Ancestry and Health test can buy a membership. And so it's called the Ancestry Plus membership, and that is a yearly fee. You would renew your membership yearly. And those people are given what is called premium reports and features. And it does offer some more DNA matching features that would be helpful to those of us doing genealogy. But it would be a yearly fee. And full disclosure, I don't have this membership, so I can't really speak to what it looks like. I have just done the basic autosomal DNA test myself. Okay, so once you have taken the test and you have logged into the 23andMe website, this is what it looks like. So tonight, we're really just going to do an overview of the website. We can't get really deep into anything because we just don't have the time. We could easily spend 2 to 3 hours talking about all the ins and outs and things you can do with the 23andMe website. So the main tab that we're going to be looking at tonight is this Ancestry and Traits tab. You can see it's up there at the top where the arrow is. There's also a quick links down on the left side of the homepage, and that also gets you to some of the same places that you can get to from the Ancestry and Traits tab. So there's multiple ways to get at some of the same information. It never hurts to just click around and click on things and look to see what happens when you click on them. So this Ancestry and Traits tab, when you pull it down, it pulls down to this new menu, which gives you an Ancestry and Traits overview, reports, ancestry composition, DNA relatives, and traits. So we're going to go through these one by one. So the Ancestry and Traits overview, this is kind of like your home page for your DNA results. You have links to basically most of the key features of your DNA results here. You can see up at the top, the first arrow, all reports, then the ancestry composition arrow there, and then the arrow that's pointing to the DNA painting, parental inheritance and ancestry timeline, and the DNA relatives list down at the bottom. So all of those things are basically available from this overview page. So let's look at the ancestry composition first. There's a lot of different features that 23andMe offers. And basically, your ancestry composition is the fancy words that 23andMe uses to mean your ethnicity estimate. So if you had your DNA done at another company, they might call it an ethnicity estimate. And Ancestry, or 23andMe is calling it ancestry composition. But it's basically the same format. You've got a pie chart, you've got your list of ethnicities and your percentages, and you've got a map of the world that highlights where those ethnicities lived. We also have up at the top there where the arrow is frequently asked questions and scientific details. So if you have any questions about your ancestry composition, you look at it and you are saying, I don't know what this means. I can't figure this out. This doesn't represent what I know about my family. Look at the frequently asked questions. I can't emphasize that enough. And if those don't satisfy you, contact 23andMe. From what I understand, they have a good customer service department. And most of the time, I've heard good things about it. So I think that they would be very qualified to answer your questions if you are stumped by something in your ancestry composition results. So looking at the ethnicity estimate a little bit closer, first of all, the percentages, we're not going to really quibble about those. It looks like those percentages are very cut and dry. Like, you know, it says 24.3% French and German. Like, you know, not 24%, not 25%, but 24.3. But these are all basically based on ranges. So they're not really that exact number. And if you read into the scientific details about the ethnicity estimate, you will read about how they came up with that percentage number that they give you. So basically, you know, 21% French and German, 28% French and German. It's around in there, probably is how much French and German I really am, but I'm not going to quibble about it, and you shouldn't either. As far as the listings, the way that they have it arranged on this page, they have it arranged by continent, then they have region, then they have ethnic group within a region, and then they have some city or county breakdowns within that ethnic group area. So I have put down here what is the most accurate and then possibly the less accurate. So as far as the continent level goes, most experts and DNA experts will tell you that these companies can predict your continent level very well. So on my DNA there, I'm basically, it says 99.2% European, but I'm basically between 99 and 100% European. We'll talk about that trace ancestry at the bottom of my ethnicity estimate a little later, but I'm basically 100% European. That's the continent that I'm from. And whatever continent that you're from, you might be African, you might be Asian, you might be North American or South American. That is your continent level. And those are considered very reliable. So you're not going to quibble about your continent usually. You might quibble about the percentages, but the continent is going to be right. They're going to be able to tell whether I am, like if I were of a mixed marriage, if one of my parents was from one continent and one was from another continent, this testing should be able to predict that very, very correctly. Now, the next division within the continent is region. So you can see I have Northwestern European, I have Eastern European, and I have Southern European. Those are my three regions. And again, I can't really quibble with those. So I think the majority of the time, but maybe not always, the region is going to be correct. Those three regions are where my family is basically from. So they have predicted that correctly. Now, under Northwestern European, I have three ethnic groups. I have British and Irish, I have French and German, and I have Scandinavian. I will agree with British and Irish and French and German. Scandinavian, I'm a little bit skeptical about. And this is where these companies start to break down. They're not as well equipped to differentiate between groups within a region. So Northwestern Europe, we've got these three groups that they're saying I have some DNA from each of those three groups that are in Northwestern Europe. And it may not be possible for them to get it exactly right on my DNA or on yours, because I think that's where it starts getting really tricky in analyzing DNA and predicting your ethnicity estimate. And then you can see under British and Irish, I have Greater London and County Galway, and then I have 17 more regions that I could open up and look at. And those are even less useful in my personal opinion. And I'm going to open up the screen that talks about those in a second here. But the trace ancestry, that is the amount that is less than 1% down at the bottom there. And they're saying that I have trace ancestry of North African, broadly West African, and broadly West Asian and North African. And they're very tiny amounts of DNA. And I'm also going to bring up a screen about that in a minute. So this is what, when it said Greater London and County Galway for my British and Irish, this is what 23andMe says about that. They call it your recent ancestor locations. And basically, reading through all this fine print, they say that they got that from looking at the reference populations and comparing me to their reference populations. So I apparently have similar DNA to some people that are from the Greater London area. And so that's why they gave me that designation. They also say at the very end, your results are a living analysis and will improve over time as more people with known ancestry join our gene pool. So that basically means they're going to be updating those results. And we know that they update our results every once in a while and give us a different ethnicity estimate. And so I would expect it to change and morph. And as more people test, as they basically said here. So this is what they say about the trace ancestry. So if you're one of the people that has trace ancestry, basically their definition of trace ancestry would be something that is under 1% of an ethnicity. And I will say this, other autosomal testing companies do not include percentages under 1% on your results page. So Ancestry DNA does not report anything where you would have less than 1% of a certain ethnicity. They just don't report it to you. You might have some ethnicities that you do have a very trace amount, but they're not reporting to you on your homepage so you could see it. But 23andMe does. And 23andMe says in that second paragraph, we report ancestry composition results as small as 0.1% because our algorithm does a very good job of estimating ancestry for each small piece of the genome. So they believe that they're basically saying that they believe that their technology is doing a really good job and that they're pretty accurate about these very small segments of DNA that would be under 1%. Now, remember I had the largest piece I had was like 0.4%. I believe it was North African. This would represent an ancestor that would be very far back on my tree, and I don't think I would be able to trace this person. And so I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time trying to figure that out, but it is kind of a neat little results to kind of think about the implications of it. How did I get an ancestor that was from North Africa? Where might he or she have lived? How did they get into my tree? That type of thing. So that's how I look at it. But anyways, that's the trace ancestry. Now, all of those links were clickable. So if you wanted to read more about any of those ethnicities, you can click on them. So we click on Northwestern Europe and we get a little blurb about Northwestern Europe. If we click on British and Irish, we get blurbs about British and Irish. And we also get highlighting on the map over to the right-hand side, showing you where the United Kingdom and Ireland are located. You can also see that where that first arrow is, they give you a confidence level of how confident they are that I have United Kingdom. They say highly likely. Republic of Ireland, they say likely. And it looks like I can click on that blue right under Republic of Ireland, the blue highlighted material, it says see all tested populations. So I could click on that and probably get more and more information about some of those ethnicities as well. If I want to learn about Irish and British heritage, I can click on that learn more, the second arrow. And then I get this whole new page with quite a long page of history of the people groups in Britain and Ireland, and more about that, and DNA relatives with this ethnicity. So this is from my match list and so forth. Now, going back to our Ancestry and Traits overview page, we have more things to look at. So the arrow in the middle there, these are some more options under basically ancestry composition. You have a timeline, parental inheritance, and DNA painting. So we're going to go through those as well. This ancestry timeline is a little bit, it's kind of a fun feature, but it's a little bit cryptic. So you have to click on that blue link in the middle there that says learn about how to interpret this result. And that's when it opens up to this new, this information that I have highlighted at the bottom. And basically the most important thing to know about this is that this is telling you the generation range where they estimate that you are likely to have had a single relative who descended from a single population. So you can see the top one is my British and Irish, and it's saying that between 1910 and 1940, they think I had a relative who was all British and Irish. Basically, that'd be their entire background. And I don't know if they're talking about the person was alive in 1910 or the person was born in that time period. If they're talking about the person was born in that time period, then I think that they're right. My great grandfather on my mother's side, I believe he was 100% British and Irish background. He was born in 1890, but he was alive in 1910 and 1940. So if we're going to count him, we can kind of squish him into that category, that prediction that they made. So this is kind of a fun little feature. And again, they're saying that it's an estimate. So, it's not going to be completely on the money every time, but it's pretty close, at least for that first one for me. Okay, parental inheritance. So this is only available to you if your parents have tested at 23andMe. So I was lucky enough to get my parents to test at 23andMe, and then I had to link my kit to theirs. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. When you do that, you get this nifty feature. And basically, in the middle is me, SA, and then on the right side is AA, my mother, and on the left side is DA, my father. And then it's showing me that I got 49.3% of my European from my mom and 49.9% of my European from my dad. Most of that trace ancestry is from my mom, but a little bit of it is from my dad. So they're saying that I got some from both parents, which is interesting. My Eastern European is all from my dad, and my Southern European is all from my dad, and that is to be expected. So if you don't have your parents hooked onto your 23andMe account, you're going to get this. And it says, and it tells you how to hook or connect up your DNA with your mom and your dad. And of course, if you don't have a mom and dad to test, you could test a child of yours. You and your husband or you and your wife could both test and test some of your children, and you could connect up to them that way. And your child would be able to see what they inherited from mom and dad. So that is the way that you can participate in this feature if you don't have your parents tested. Again, it's kind of a neat feature that just kind of shows you a little bit more detail about the ethnicity. Okay, the DNA painting. So this feature is basically color coding by ethnicity on your 22 pair of chromosomes and the X chromosome. So basically, when you hover over all of the different ethnicities on the left, they will light up on the chromosomes there. So you could see if I hovered over Scandinavian, all the rest of them would go away and you would just see the Scandinavian highlighted over here on the chromosomes. Since I'm showing you a slide, we can't do that right now, but I do have a slide later on that shows you what it looks like when you hover over British and Irish. Now, my quibble with this is that they use basically very similar colors of blue, and they're color coding, and they're supposed to be representing different colors. And to me, it all looks like one big light blue blob. So I would like 23andMe to make the colors more distinctive, but that's just I think it's my eyesight that is the problem, actually. But this is color coding my ethnicity and showing you where it is. The African, remember the trace African DNA? That is this purple and this magenta on chromosome 6. So that's interesting. All right. Now, you can change the confidence level of this, and that is done at this place right up here, right above the first chromosome. Okay, So the confidence level, it starts out at 50% confidence. So that was the default. That was what we were just looking at, was my chromosome painting with a 50% confidence level. And 23andMe, you can notice, is calling that speculative on the continuum of confidence levels. You can change it to 60%, 70%, 80%, or 90% confidence level. And the 90% would be the most conservative. And you want to read their ancestry analysis here, where it says, basically for more information about this, read this ancestry analysis. But the gist would be that you should be more confident with your ethnicity estimate, the higher confidence level that you are picking here. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you highlight one of the ethnicities. So this is me when I highlighted British and Irish, it lit up all the British and Irish on my chromosomes. And you can see I do have British and Irish, if you remember, that I inherited from both parents. And you can see that on chromosome 9 and chromosome 10, especially, I've gotten mostly British and Irish from each parent. So for each chromosome, there's 2 copies. So after chromosome 1, there's 2 lines going across, and chromosome 2 the same. The top line is one of my parents. I don't know which one. The bottom line is the other parent, and it's not consistent. So each chromosome might be different. On some of the chromosomes, my father might be the top line, and other chromosomes, my mother might be the top line. And how do I know which is which? I have to figure it out. I can look to see, because my father is the one that gave me Eastern European. So any chromosome that I have Eastern European on, I know is my copy that I got from him. So this is also a really interesting feature of the 23andMe website. And Ancestry DNA recently also offered this kind of chromosome painting, but it was really recent. 23andMe has been offering this for years. So, all right. Now we're going to move on to DNA relatives. So this is another one of the options that you can pick up off of the tab Ancestry and Traits. So DNA relatives, this is basically your DNA matches. And you can see up at the top of the screen, we have frequently asked questions again. So if you have questions about your DNA relatives page, or what it means, or what's going on with this match or that match, or something on this page or this area of the site is confusing to you, look at the frequently asked questions. And then again, like I said, don't be afraid to call customer service. Now, this page is arranged it's sorted by strength of relationship. And you can see the sort is right up here where this second arrow is. And so you can change the sort, and you can sort it by different things, but it's sorted by strength of relationship, which should put your highest level matches first on the list. And you can see my highest level match is my father, and then my mother, and then my sister, and then my aunt, and then my uncle. So it is going down in a descending order of how much I am related to these people. But you might want to change the sort. And like I said, you can do that by just clicking on this box here and changing it to something else. There are also filters over on the left-hand side, and you can also use those to pull up certain matches and not all your matches. So the filters, basically, there's a top box where you can search by keyword. So you can search by the name of your match. This would be the username of your match. So let's say you knew you had a match named Fiona, but you had lost track of where she was on your match page. And so you want to find her again. So you can put in Fiona in that search keywords, and you should come up with all the Fionas on your match page. And hopefully you will get, a link to the correct one that you were thinking of. The location is the profile location of the DNA match. So if you're kind of thinking that there was a DNA match that was from Texas and you want to put in, and you can't find that person again, you could put in Texas there and maybe, you would get a hint as to which match it was. You can also search your notes through this search box. Notes would be, you can add notes about each one of your DNA matches on the match page, and I'll show you that location in a minute. You can also filter by notifications. You can filter by profile feature and activity, and you can filter by father's side and mother's side. And I'm just going down the list of filters on the left-hand side there. We're continuing down the list of filters. You can filter by ancestor's birthplace. This is going to show you the top 20 ancestor birthplaces only. And this would be information that your matches fill in on their profile page. You can also filter by family names. Again, this would be people can enter your family names on your profile page so that other people can see what names you have in your family. And it's showing me the top 20 family names in my that my matches have listed. And then you can filter by connections, whether you're connected with the DNA match or not. So those are filters, and it's just different ways of getting at the matches without just paging through them one page by page. There's also a map of your matches locations. My understanding is that this is their current locations. So when they were asked where they lived, basically, this is what they put in. So most of my matches looks like are living in the US and Canada and a few in UK. And then somebody is in Saudi Arabia, it looks like. Now, if you want to learn more about a match, you can click on the match's name. This will open up a whole new screen. So this is comparing me and my match JK. And so first of all, it's showing me her sex, her birth year, and her activity and what her location. Now she could have left her birth year blank. So she may, not everybody fills that out. Not everybody fills out their location. I think she has to fill out her sex. So it will say female or male, and this would be biological sex at birth. And the activity would show. Then under that, you can see I can send her a message. So if I want to find out more about JK, send her a message. It's showing that I can add her as a connection. So this means right now we are not connected. If I connected with her, we would be able to share more information about ourselves with each other. So if you want to connect with a match, and I always hit that, I always hit add connection because I figure more information is always better than less information. So I click add connection, and then I have to wait for her to accept my connection. And she may or may not do that. A lot of people don't realize that that people have tried to connect with them, and so they don't answer you. But and then some people might connect with you years later, and they might see your connection request years later and reply to it. So, all right, then next on the page of the comparison between me and JK, it tells us our genetic relationship. And it says in really small print that this is a predicted relationship. And then in large print, it says third cousin. Well, does this mean that she's my third cousin? No. This is basically, my understanding is that they have predicted this based on our ages, like what age we are. They know both of our ages, and they know our shared matching, and they know how much DNA we share. And so they have kind of run that through their computer, and it is spit out that we're possibly third cousins. And so that's what they have decided to say that we are. if JK and I actually figure out her actual relationship, I can edit that. And that's where that arrow is there. It's a tiny pencil. And so you click on that and I can tell, I can edit right there in the match page what relationship I figured out I really am with JK. This diagram here is very useful, but it's just telling me how a third cousin and I would be related. So it's based on this predicted relationship. It's not saying that we are third cousins. It's just saying if you are third cousins, you are descended from the second great grandparent. So we would have the second great grandparents. But I'm not going to kill myself trying to find a pair of second great grandparents that we actually share. I'm going to have to explore this and look at it from many different angles to try to figure out how we're related. And right here in the bottom, they kind of hidden the best part. This is the amount of DNA that we actually share, 1.53%. And so they're not telling us the centimorgans, they're telling us the percent. So what do we do with that information? We have to take it to a third-party website to figure out what that means and translate it into centimorgans. And that third-party website is DNA Painter. I talk about this all the time, dnapainter.com, and then under tools, there's the Shared Centimorgan Project. Here in the middle, where it says filter, underneath here, it says enter the total percent shared with your match here. And so I put in 1.53, which is what I share with JK. It tells me up here that that is 114 centimorgans. So I'm more comfortable working with centimorgans. But I have now converted it so I can see both. And this here is telling me the probabilities, the relationship probabilities for me and JK. And you can see third cousin is not one of the highest probabilities. It's actually the second, it's in the second highest group. The highest probability is it would be one of these relationships here, a half second cousin. I kind of lead towards second cousin once removed, but I really don't know because I haven't explored this match with JK at all. But you can see there's a number of options. Okay, back to my comparison with JK. So this is the family background comparison, and you can see that on the left side is me, and on the right side is JK, and JK's column is blank. So she did not enter any of this information in her profile. I put in my grandparents' birthplace. So these are all where my grandparents were born. And I did not put in any family surnames. You can see that down there. I left that blank. Shame on me. I should have entered that. But JK hasn't entered anything either. So I really can't tell a whole lot about her from this page. Down at the bottom of the page, I promised you I'd show you where the notes is. So you have to scroll down to the very end of your match page with the match. And this is where I could enter in notes about JK. Maybe I figured out what the initials JK stand for. I could write that in there. If I find out what side of my family she's on, I could put down, you know, related to grandma so-and-so or grandpa so-and-so, or you know, anything that I found out about her, any notes that I want to preserve. And those are seen only by me. The last thing is the first arrow here is relatives in common. So relatives in common looks like this. So this is basically showing us any of the matches that match both me and JK. And since I've tested both my parents at 23andMe, I want to check, you know, does she match mom or dad? This would be a real help to me in figuring out at least an initial idea of who she might be. And it says that she matches my mother. So the relatives in common names are over on the left side. And then it tells me their relationship to me and then their relationship to JK. And this is predicted relationship again. So with my mother, JK is a third cousin with her as well. And then if I recognize some of these other names, maybe I could get a better handle on who JK is based on these relatives in common. Now, Right now, this feature is not working, and that's why I have that annoying sign over to the side that says temporarily out of service. Um, this has been taken down by 23andMe. We're going to talk about this at the end of the webinar, but basically, my understanding and the understanding of the other genealogists is that they're saying that it's a temporary thing. So we hope that they will restore access to this feature soon. Okay, now, if you remember, I said that JK and I were not connecting, but this is what it looks like if you do connect with a match. So NG and I are connected. And so you can see that it now gives me the amount of centimorgans I share with NG. It also shows the chromosomes and which chromosomes I match NG on. And this has been temporarily removed as well, but we believe that it will be reinstated at some point. It also shows me NG's ancestry composition, so I can see her ethnicity estimate. I can see her haplogroup information. So that information is available as well. Okay, all ancestry reports. So we're going to have to move a little quicker here because I've been talking too much. So if you click on all ancestry reports, it gives you Neanderthal, maternal haplogroup, and paternal haplogroup. So Neanderthal is just kind of a fun little thing. It tells you how much Neanderthal DNA you happen to have. So just a little interesting bit of information there. Maternal haplogroup, this is taken from your mitochondrial DNA, which you got from your mother, and she got it from her mother. And so it's a matrilineal line piece of DNA. And 23andMe is going to give you a broad look at your haplogroup. It's not going to be very detailed. If you want a detailed mitochondrial DNA test, you have to go to Family Tree DNA and order one there. They're the company that offers that testing. But what 23andMe gives me is basically information about my ancient matrilineal line, where they came from, how long ago they were living in these different places. And this would be thousands of years ago. And it says my maternal haplogroup is J1C2. They do the same thing for your paternal haplogroup, but only men have a paternal haplogroup. So female test takers are not going to have this, with one exception, which I'll show you in a minute. The paternal haplogroup is found on the Y chromosome. If you want a complete Y DNA test, you need to take it at Family Tree DNA Testing Company. This is just going to show you this little snippet of your paternal haplogroup, and this is not what a complete Y DNA test would show you. Now, remember I just said that only men have the Y chromosome, they get it from their fathers. So why are they showing me a paternal haplogroup? Well, remember I told you my father took a 23andMe test, and I've connected myself to him as his daughter. So they are putting that in there and showing me basically my father's paternal haplogroup. And again, this is the ancient information about my dad's ancient male patrilineal tribe, and it's IP109. All right, this is the trait. So remember, the basic test gives you the autosomal DNA and 30 traits. And so this is kind of what the traits looks like. It's kind of just for fun. It's showing you things like cheek dimples, cleft chin, dandruff. How likely are you to have those characteristics? So that's basically what the traits is doing. Okay, now that's all the Ancestry and Traits tab. Now we need to go to the Family and Friends tab. So the Family and Friends tab is a couple tabs over. You can see there on the home page. And we're going to look at 3 items under the Family and Friends tab. We're going to look at the family tree, the grand tree, and the advanced DNA comparison. So the family tree, this is something that baffles many a person. So You go to this family tree tab and you click on it and it brings up a family tree and it looks like it could be an accurate tree. And you're like, well, how did 23andMe get this? I didn't create this tree. They created this tree. How do they know who's in my tree? They don't. So this is a computer generated tree. It's basically AI, so artificial intelligence. They are generating it from what you've told them. So I've already told them, my year of birth. I've told them who my father and mother are because I connected my kit to their kits. And they know my parents' years of birth. They can look at my shared matching between my mother and me and my father and me. And they can look at the ages of my matches and amounts of DNA that I share with those matches. And they take all that and they throw it together into their computer and out pops this tree. And it's a predicted tree. So it's an attempt by 23andMe to kind of place my DNA matches on a tree and show me how I might be related to them. It can be and probably is wrong, but you can edit the tree. So you can correct any incorrect relationships. You can move the matches around if you think that they're in the wrong place on the tree. And you can do a lot of different things with the tree. So this is what my tree looks like that 23andMe generated for me. The little people over here, these are matches. These are matches over here. This is me here. This is my mom and dad. And, they have my mom and dad's name and information because remember, my mom and dad tested. So basically, they are saying that any matches over here on the right side of the tree, anybody coming down over here, these three matches here are on my dad's side. And they're saying that these matches over here on the left side of the tree are from my mom's side. And they could be wrong. I have actually seen it where they have put somebody on the wrong parent's side and I've had to move them. So if I decided that this person here actually belonged over on my mom's side, I would click on them and there would be an edit box come up, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and I could move that person over to this side. I can also add in the names of my grandparents. So on my dad's side, for instance, if I figured out that this side over here was my grandpa and this side over here was my grandpa, I could edit this to say my grandpa's name and I could edit this to say my grandma's name. And these are my grandparents, and because the line is going down from them to my father, DA. So this is what it looks like when you click on edit. So here's Lisa down here on the tree. I click on her and it comes up with this edit box up here where I can edit my relationship with her. I can view the profile. I can add a relative to Lisa. Basically, I can do a number of different edits there with this Lisa, and I could move her to a different place on the tree if I decided she actually goes somewhere else on the tree. So that's what you need to do with the tree if you're wanting this tree to be as accurate as possible. It's a speculative tree. It was put together by AI. There was nobody at 23andMe. There's not a person over at 23andMe that's building your tree, looking at genealogical records. That's not what's happening. It's an AI generated tree. Okay, advanced DNA comparison. This is a really neat feature. Unfortunately, this is another feature that is not available right now, but this is what it looks like. I'm comparing myself to, and then my DNA relatives. So I could pick AA, CH, and CR. I could pick all three of those and have them and put them over here and compare myself to all four of them at the same time. And what it would look like is something like this. And it would be showing the highlights on the chromosomes of where we share DNA. So me and CR only share 21 centimorgans total. So we're not very closely related. And at the bottom, it tells you the exact start position and end position of that segment of DNA that we have in common. So that was a really neat feature. And again, we're hopeful that that will be brought back sometime soon. The grand tree is finally the last feature that I'm going to show you. And apparently it's really cool, but you have to have a grandparent-grandchild relationship. So you have to have tested your grandparent, or you have to have tested your grandchild, and then you would hook the two trees together, and then it would do some neat things there. You want to watch this quick tutorial to learn more if you want to learn more about that. But I don't have a grandparent or a grandchild that has tested, so I can't use this feature. All right, so that's the highlights of 23andMe. Now I'm just going to quick show you the account information. So this is like the nerve center of your 23andMe account. You need to know about this. It's basically the top right-hand side of the homepage. It's going to have your name, and then there's a pull-down menu. And so view your profile. This is editing the profile that your matches can see, where you add in your birth date, your location, your ancestral surnames, your ancestral locations, that kind of thing. So if you want, and there's a place to add free text as well. So you could add anything you want there. Settings would be where you would go to do a lot of account settings. And then browse raw DNA, so, or raw data, I should say. This is where you can download your DNA file from 23andMe onto your computer, and then upload it to another site that accepts downloads. So MyHeritage, GEDmatch, you could take your 23andMe data and put those on those other sites. And this is where you would do it, under the browse raw data. There's also help here. Don't forget about that. If you're lost, if you have questions, go there. And just under settings, you're going to be able to do like your credit card information, your password, your privacy and sharing settings, your preferences, and so forth. So that is where that is. And finally, don't forget about your notifications. That's this bell logo that is right next to my name there. And it is highlighted with that green dot. That means I have notifications that I have not looked at. So I need to get in there and look at those. It could be a message from a DNA match. It could be just a connection notification. Somebody wants to connect with me, or I wanted to connect with them, something like that. So be sure you're checking your notifications. And that is our really quick whistle-stop tour into 23andMe. Now, I did say that I would speak about why some of the features have been removed from 23andMe temporarily. This is from 23andMe's website. Basically, I'm giving this talk to you in early November 2023. In October of 2023andMe, 23andMe had announced that there had been a data breach on their site. And so this is kind of like giving updates on the data breach and different things like that. And they said, as of October 20th, as part of the ongoing security investigation, we have temporarily disabled some features within the DNA relatives tool as an added precaution. So all the genealogists have been seizing on the word temporarily, and we all hope that some of those features will come back. But right now, the ones that I had mentioned have been taken off the site, at least for the time being, because of some security risks. From what I understand, I think they found some vulnerabilities on the site, and those particular DNA relative features might have had some vulnerabilities, so they need to kind of patch up. They also are requiring everybody to change their password. The next time that you go to log into 23andMe, you will be prompted to do so. And that is standard procedure when there's been a data breach of some sort. So just be sure you do that. And they want to tell you, don't reuse your password. Don't have the same password at multiple sites. make your password really hard to guess, make it, a nonsense word with special characters and numbers and, that kind of thing. So just do your best to try to keep your passwords for different things safe, is basically what I can tell you.
Great.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Sarah, for such a
Yeah.
great program. And thanks, everybody, for joining us this evening.